Good day to you all. I am Kari, and this is books I should have read in 2019. Don't ask me why I sound like I'm on a game show in the 1800s, I really can't explain. Something just switched in my brain. Not intentional. Anyway, I have seen this going around a lot this year, and thought it would be fun to list off a couple of the books that I probably should have read in 2019, but didn't. Disclaimer, because always, there are so many books that I should have read in 2019. These are just kind of the top 6 that I found because I'd been thinking about them for a couple of days and how they are on the top of my list. It's just that the top of my list is probably a solid 50 books, and those get switched around a lot. Anyway, let's get into it. The first one is David McCullough's Truman, which that might explain why I haven't read it. Also, I don't know much about Truman. If I'm not mistaken, he was after Roosevelt. Yep, Roosevelt died and Truman took over, so he was the one at the Potsdam Conference in Germany after World War II. Anyway, sorry, mental memory there, I guess. Anyway, I do want to read this. I've heard from several people, including one of my coworkers, my dad, and one of my uncles, that McCullough is a fantastic writer and he does a really good job with these biographies. I own at least 2 of them now. I think I might own his 1776, and I bought something else of his, but it's somewhere in this room that I don't have the energy or time to go find right now. Anyway, I do want to read this because, like I said, I don't know much about Truman beyond that he was one of the 3 world leaders at the Potsdam Conference in Germany in 1945. It's very long, and since I tend not to be as interested in anything between 1900 and forward as I am 1899 and prior, this is, while a priority, not as prioritized, we'll say, as, say, Elizabeth. As a side note, I definitely own his 1776, I just didn't see it when I took Truman out. Speaking of Elizabeth, though, one of the other ones I should have read this year is Elizabeth and Her Circle by Susan Duran. I have had this book, 5 years, 4 years? When was this thing published? This was published in 2015. I've had it since it came out. So I've had this for 4 years and have not read it. I would love to read it because it is about Elizabeth and her closest courtiers, including Robin Dudley, the Earl of Leicester, and her Master of Horse. I believe it would also include Walsingham and Essex. Things didn't end well for Essex. And Cecil, obviously Cecil, because he's like the most important person. But I have not gotten around to this book for whatever reason. I don't think there is one. I think it just sort of got subsumed by the avalanche of books that I've accumulated since then. This was on my end of the year book tag as one of the 3 books I'd like to read before the end of the year. And at this point, it is definitely just not going to happen. However, since it is on my radar pretty boldly now, I think I would like to read it in January or February of 2020. Next we have The Poppy War by R.F. Kuang. This is an adult fantasy where our main character takes this aptitude test for a high-class military school and gets in miraculously. She's from a lower class of citizens in the country, and they rarely get in, so the fact that she does get in is amazing. My understanding is that it is sort of a fantasy retelling of Chinese history, which includes the rape of Nanking or Nanjing, depending on how you pronounce it. I'm not really sure which one is correct, but people have absolutely raved about this series. I have the Dragon War because, right? Dragon Republic, sorry, my bad, I'm confusing titles. Poppy War, Dragon Republic, and I think the 3rd one comes out next year. I follow the author on Twitter, it's very fun. But I just haven't read it yet, which is a total shame on me moment. I will get there. Again, this is probably going to be read within the first couple of months of 2020. hopefully, theoretically, I don't know, I'm gonna have to just sit down and binge series on the weekends to even get remotely close to catching up. Next we have Beasts Made of Night by Tochi Onyebuchi. This is a Nigerian-inspired fantasy where purity is exalted but cleansing wrongdoings comes at a cost. Corrupt mages can magically extract sin from a sinner in the form of sin beasts, lethal creatures spawned from feelings of guilt. And then we have sin eaters known as Aki, are indentured by the mages to slay the beasts. And so our main character is the most talented of the sin eaters. Not gonna lie, total cover buy. I'm fairly certain this ended up in one of my prettiest covers videos. And I own his recent sci-fi book that came out, War Girls. I also own the second book in this series. I just haven't read it. There's no excuse. It is short, it sounds pretty fast-paced, it sounds good. I love the cover, so there's no reason for me not to have read it. I just haven't. I would say I would get to this in early 2020, but the more I say that for books, the less likely we know it's all gonna happen. I think that made sense, except that I don't think that made sense, but I think that you know what I meant to say. And since I can't come up with the words to actually make that make sense, I'm hoping you know what I'm gonna say. And if you can get all of that to make any sort of sense, I'm impressed. But I'd like to read this sometime soon. Next we have King of Scars by Leigh Bardugo. I really genuinely had the best of intentions in reading this. It is the first book in a new duology set in the Grishaverse, following partly Nikolai, who is one of people's favorite characters from the original Grisha trilogy. I binged the Grisha trilogy one weekend so that I could read this when it came out in February. It is now December, in case you missed the last 11 months, and I still have not read this book. I did hear sort of mixed reviews, lukewarm, as it were, because it was sold as Nikolai's story after the Grishaverse, or after the Grisha trilogy, and apparently it's not. Nikolai's in here, but he is not as prominent as the ads made it seem, which is disappointing, misleading, and just rude. But I'm still very curious as to what this is, and I know that her books are a fast read and they're well-paced. If not my ultimate favorite, they are good books. So this book will get done sometime in 2020 for sure. I just don't know when. But I'm a little bit ashamed of not having read this one when I actually actively prepared to read it when it came out. And the last book is City of Brass by S.A. Chakraborty. This is a 18th century? It's definitely 18th century, I think. Anyway, 18th or 19th century Cairo, where our main character encounters a djinn, and then all sorts of nonsense happens from there. It sounds really good. It is set in Cairo, which is not a place you usually see as a setting in modern days or in the 18th or 19th centuries. I'm sorry, I keep mucking that up. And the djinn and the politics sound really good. I know Reagan over at Peruse Project absolutely loves this book. I bought it with the best intentions, as per usual, of reading it almost instantly, and now, 2 years later, and I haven't touched it. I do own the second one as well, so as I've mentioned in one of my other videos going up around this time, I'm probably just gonna have to sit and binge series for some weekends this coming winter, which is not a bad thing because in Minnesota it's really, really cold in January. It's not as bad in February, but January is coming and we're all gonna freeze. It's fine. To be honest, I genuinely don't mind. I like being able to cuddle into my tick and have some nice hot tea and read a book or watch TV or just chill, and it's quiet. There's no birds or cars or people screaming because they're outside and drunk. It's very nice. The only thing that there is snowmobiles, because I live near a path where snowmobiles go, which is fine because they're not that common. It's lovely and quiet. Don't get me wrong, my neighborhood's quiet anyway, but winter in general is just a lovely, amazing, quiet, cold time, and it's perfect. That was a long digression, tangent, whatever you want to call it. I haven't read this book. I should, because I own it and the second one, and everybody raves about it, and I've really been feeling some desert fantasy lately. So maybe after Christmas I will finally get to give in to that urge. Those are 6 of the books, anyway, that I should have read this year. I'm not gonna say I wish I read them this year, because that would be a list of every single book I own that I haven't read yet. I wish I had read every book I own. I didn't, because my reading year was a lower reading year, but I'll talk about that in an upcoming video. I hope you didn't mind my tangents or digressions or rambling too much. I hope this all made sense. And if you've read any of these books and have just a burning desire for me to prioritize one over the others in the coming year, let me know down in the comments, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye.